Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. The biggest NFL story of the weekend, Shedeur Sanders. And it was interesting because I was actually on air on Fox Sports Radio during Shedeur Sanders' debut. And so if you listen to this show, and by the way, we're not going to be breaking down NFL games on this show. It's still August 10th. Okay. We don't have a ton of breakdown, so don't worry. You're not going to tune in on a random Sunday going forward. And I'm just going to be talking, Tennessee Titans too deep or anything like that. But Shedeur was the biggest story of the weekend, is probably the biggest story of the preseason. And we talked about it last week, and I hate to brag, but I kind of sort of nailed how things went down. Now, listen, as I said, let me even backtrack. Okay, so last week we talked about Shedeur getting the opportunity to start. And what I said at the time, I said, look, I don't know what happened during the draft process. I don't care what happened during the draft process. But let's put aside our personal opinions, whether you like him, whether you hate him. Let's just talk facts. He was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. He threw for 37 touchdowns a year ago. He completed 74% of his passes. He took a team that won one game the year before he got there to 9 wins by his second season at Colorado, okay? I keep saying, this guy's not Bronny James. This is not a guy who is only in the NFL because of who his dad is. He is a guy that many people saw as a first-round pick as recently as the week of the NFL draft. So I had high expectations for Shedeur coming into this weekend. And I got to say, he wasn't perfect. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, you're overreacting. But you saw about everything you could have wanted if you were a Browns fan. If you watched Friday night, it was great entertainment. But Shedeur Sanders going into Carolina, and I understand he's not playing against, the best defense in the history of football. But as you can see on the screen, 14 of 23 passing, 138 yards, 2 touchdown passes, 19 yards rushing. Was it the greatest performance in the history of the NFL? No. Should we start creating his bust for Canton? No. But we talked about it. I did a little bit of a standalone clip on Saturday. I want to dive into it more because I think there is so much misperception about this and what it means. And I just think it's bigger than people are giving it credit for. And by the way, I think we even saw some stuff this weekend that bodes well for Shedeur in the bigger picture. Bottom line is this. If you watch, first of all, you can't say it doesn't matter for 2 reasons. One, if you watch the game, don't just be a box score watcher. If you watch the game, he was actually pretty good. He wasn't perfect, but 14-23, 2 touchdowns. And by the way, anybody who's telling me it doesn't matter, if he was 7 of 23 with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions, then guess what? You'd be telling me how much he sucked today, okay? So you can't say that it doesn't matter. But I thought he really looked about as good as you really could have expected in that preseason game. Wasn't perfect, but I thought he kind of did everything that you wanted to see. He hit some short passes. He obviously had the 2 touchdown passes. He made the smart play seemingly every play, hit some short passes, hit a couple deep balls, took off and ran for a first down once or twice. I thought there was even a play. It was, I think, in the third quarter maybe, where he was deep in his own territory and it was like 3rd and 16 or something. And he was backed up on his own goal line. And rather than trying to make some hero play, he just dumped it down to pick up about like 8-10 yards, didn't get a first down, but he gave his punter room to punt, and they flipped the field and they scored a touchdown on the next drive. And so, listen, there's people on the internet that are going to tell, oh, this doesn't mean anything. Again, I'm not saying we have to put his bust in can, but it absolutely means something for a few different reasons, okay? First of all, he is a 5th-round pick. And I don't care what happened, how it happened, how he got there, what it means, whatever, is that 5th-round picks don't always get an opportunity. And when you get that drafted that late in the NFL, it's not just about are you good enough? It's about are you even going to get an opportunity? And by the way, we talked about this the day after the draft. That was why I loved the Browns drafting him in the first place, is because it was one of the few spots where he can actually, if he's good enough, get on the field this year. If he got drafted by, Will Howard got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Unless Aaron Rodgers, God forbid something happens, so Will Howard's not getting on the field. Riley Leonard got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. Unless something crazy happens, he's the third string quarterback. Well, Shedeur ended up in a place where he could conceivably get on the field, but it still came down to whether he was going to get an opportunity or not, and was he going to take advantage of it? And to his credit, he got on the field, he got the opportunity, he took advantage. And so to me, yes, this absolutely positively matters, because there's a lot of 5th, 6th round picks that aren't going to get the opportunity that he got. I take it a step further. He clearly did something good because Kevin Stefanski's kept him in until the third quarter. Now, you could sit there and say, well, Dylan Gabriel's hurt and Kenny Pickett's hurt. Okay, I get it, but Tyler Huntley's not hurt. Tyler Huntley was in uniform, and Tyler Huntley just got to camp a week ago. And so if Kevin Stefanski thought that Tyler Huntley was a legitimate option or that Shedeur was not, they could have pulled Shedeur much quicker than they did. This was not just we're doing a favor to somebody. This was, we're giving him a shot to prove he belongs, and he absolutely did. And so to me, what has been interesting is, one, there's the social media response, which is mostly negative. But I've seen some interesting things that have really caught my attention. As a matter of fact, producer Matt, you can go ahead and pop up the tweet that I sent you, because I think this is really noteworthy. So Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, works for Fox, he put out a tweet that he said, from a high-ranking AFC North executive, I didn't even see that it was an AFC North, but anyway, he said, it's early, but wow, I'm actually shocked at how good Shedeur looks. Now, first of all, let me say this. Whoever this AFC North executive is was not doing his job. Because if you had no idea how good Shedeur was, that's kind of on you. Because as I said, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, 37 touchdown passes, and I tweeted that as well. If you just didn't evaluate him, if you just didn't evaluate him because you didn't like the attitude, and I'm not saying he has an attitude, I'm just saying that's the reports, that's one thing. But the notion that you didn't know how good he was, you're not doing your homework. So it's kind of proof, by the way, that half the league wasn't even paying attention or didn't care or whatever. But you know what that's also proof of me too, is two things. Is one, is you got proof that he's impressing people. And I think, one, the proof is in the fact that he had this opportunity, he took advantage of it. And so I think this is nothing but great news for Shedeur, because, one, I think most importantly, he basically gave the Browns a reason to not only give him another chance, but I think he's going to start moving past people up the depth chart. But two, and we'll get to kind of the big picture in a second, but two, and this is where I think it's important, because to me, I think what he proved on Saturday or Friday is, even if it somehow doesn't work out, even if he somehow doesn't stay in Cleveland, and by the way, if Cleveland lets him go after this for whatever reason, they're an even more dysfunctional franchise than I realized. But Shedeur impressed some people on Friday night, and Shedeur probably has some believers now that he did not a week ago, 10 days ago, 5 days ago, 3 days ago. And so this was so much bigger than we realize and so much more important for Shedeur's trajectory. Now, a couple of things. One, it's on him to build on this. It's on him. The Browns play again on Saturday. I would assume he's going to get more reps. I would assume he's getting more snaps. Joe Flacco ain't playing. We know that. He's 40 years old. Deshaun Watson's hurt. So I don't know what Kenny Pickett's status is, what Dylan Gabriel's status is, but whatever opportunity you get, you have to build on this. But it also proves to me what I have been saying since before the draft. I absolutely believe that Shedeur is good enough. I believe he is good enough to be an NFL quarterback and an NFL starter as a quarterback as well. You can disagree. I'm just telling you what I saw with my own two eyes. 37 touchdown passes, 74% completion percentage. Wasn't perfect. Nobody is in college football. But I think he proved that he belongs. I think he proved, by the way, that if something goes wrong in Cleveland, somebody else is going to be interested. And now it's, can he take advantage of it and continue to build on it? I'll stand by what I said on draft night. I said on draft night, the show that we did after the draft, I said that I truly believe that he is going to be a starter at some point in Cleveland this season. Joe Flacco is going to be week 1, but Joe Flacco's 40 years old. Joe Flacco is not making it through 17 weeks of NFL football. And so the question is, can you prove that you're better than Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel? I think he did. He's got to build on it. My prediction, August 10th, 2025. I think he starts some games this year. Is he the best quarterback ever? Probably not. I mean, if he was, it'd be quite a story. But I think he's going to be really good. I think we got proof, definitive proof, that he was overlooked in the draft process and that some teams are starting to realize that they made some mistakes. However, he ended up on the Browns. I still think it was a Jimmy Haslam thing more than it was a Stefanski and Andrew Berry thing. Doesn't really matter. Had a chance, took advantage of it.